So, obviously, we've had a chance to watch the film from Saturday's game, and we still kind of what I said after the game. I feel is true. I thought that our kids play with a strong resolve and a real determination to find a way to win all three phases. I thought the game plan preparation by the staff and the team was excellent. I thought the mental strain of our team to execute at a higher level was excellent. We on offense were able to run against maybe the best run defense in the country. We knew it would be the kind of game that it was. We made some plays in the play-action game. And on defense, while we wanted to keep the score down, we basically gave up some chunk plays, but we bought back those scores with turnovers. So I think, and on special teams, I think we played one of the better special teams outfits in the country, and I thought we did some really nice things on special teams. So all in all, I thought we played a solid football game, and there was a lot of growth, I think, and development there, but realizing that it's really one game, and and for us, it's such a week-to-week grind. We have to really play at a high level. We have to maximize our team every week. We have to find ways to, be creative in the play-action game. So, it doesn't really matter to me, kind of who we play, so to speak. It's just kind of like that every week for one reason or the other. We're not a hugely explosive team, so, therefore we got to kind of do it like the long way, the hard way. And so that's where we are. We're sit here. We're even at 4-4. It's all about getting win number 5. It's all about going on the road on a long trip out there and being able to, push aside all the distractions, so to speak, and of travel, of this, of that, and just play at a high level and go find a way to win number 5. So that leads me into New Mexico State on defense. Their leaders, the guys that we look at, number 31, the safety, David Cazares, has got 76 tackles. He's a strong player. He's physical. He plays. He's got coverage skills, plays like a linebacker. Clint Barnard and Treshawn Nixon both have 65, 62 tackles apiece. Number 13 and number 2, they're both linebackers. They're pretty active players. The guys that have produced sacks for them are Nixon and Mobley, 98, number 2. And then Cazares and Johnson have got a couple of interceptions apiece. So, they've got 5 returning starters. That's their defense. On offense, they're averaging about 377 20.3 points per game and 377 yards of total offense. Sometimes I'm not sure what all that means, for me anyways. I don't really know what all that means. It's all relative sometimes to, where you're playing, who you're playing, and all those other things. I know what I see on the tape. When I watch it, I really just watch players, and I watch what their ability levels are. The quarterback, Andrew McDonald, is a senior. He's a good player. He's got 162 for 241. He's got 10 touchdowns. He's thrown for over 1,800 yards. Then they got this Wildcat thing going on with the kid Caldwell and the kid Franklin. They're wide receivers, and they line up in the Wildcat. Probably, to give them a little bit more productivity and try to have you not be able to fit the extra hat in there. So they're messing around with that. Running back Morrison's a senior. He's got 306 yards, and then their wide receivers, the kid number 4, I think, is a really good football player. I guess as you guys are looking at this, Austin Franklin, he's got 32 receptions for 403 yards, 3 touchdowns. I think he's a really good player. I'm impressed with him. I think he's a big-time guy. I think he's got speed, he's got explosiveness, and I think he's also their punt returner. He's dangerous. He's a very, very dangerous guy. Number 6, Bowen, and number 17, Brown. They got 3 pretty good receivers out there that I know that will give us all we can handle. So that's kind of their team. So we've got to go out there and play really well. We've got to prepare really well. And obviously, to get number 5 is never easy. And certainly, we've not proven that we've gone on the road with great success. So that's a big obstacle for us right now, and we've got to overcome that. Any questions?
In the past, when you got to bring in the road, it's like physicality, senior leadership and stuff.
Yeah.
This hasn't transpired. You get 3 of the next 4. How are you going to approach these 3 of these games?
I think we've played physically. I think if I go back on this, USC, I felt like in the second half, I just didn't feel like we handled that game well on the road. And I think it had a lot to do with, I mean, we did go out and play USC now. I mean, and I think, we're still trying to put a footprint together at that point in the season. I feel much better about the way that we went on the road when we went to North Carolina. I thought we played really physically, really hard. And, I've heard a lot of talk about that game. I mean, we made a lot of mistakes in that game. I mean, we had a lot of issues with uncharacteristic issues. We fumbled the second play of the game. We had a bunch of penalties, and we had like 5 drops. So we had no continuity, and it's like, like I said, you hear a lot, everybody's got an opinion about that game. Here's what I know. We played hard. So we played with the energy that we didn't have out in USC. We got done at UNC, but we didn't play well enough. So we didn't win the game. And we went on the road, and to their credit, their backs were up against the wall, and they got some pretty talented players. I mean, that team was, and I think everybody would tell you that was not a team indicative of their record. And so, what it was. I mean, for us to beat North Carolina, we got to play at a high level. We got to execute. We got to play well. We can't do what we did and expect to beat North Carolina. And honestly, quite frankly with you, we won't beat anybody like that. So, I mean, because that's not who we are right now. So, I think we need to go on the road and put both things together. We've got to play with great energy. I think we've got to be a physical team, but then we've got to execute at a high level, so that we can move the chains. and that's what we need to do. And we haven't done that yet. And this, from a trip standpoint, this might be one of the tougher trips, And so we've got to manage all that well. And our seniors, by the way, last week, in my opinion, most of our seniors played their best game last week. I'm really encouraged to see that. And I'm happy for them. And they really, they had their best week last week. The preparation and the determination on our seniors last week was really, really noticeable. So you asked me that question. They need to bring that on the road right now. I don't know that I could say that when we went to North Carolina, and that's all part of the process, I mean, I'm hope that we can continue to play at a high level and play our best ball down the home stretch right now. I hope,
I'm interested to know, though, what your summation was of the effort you got at Clemson, because you kind of omitted, you describing going from one to the other, but
right.
There was Clemson, and you seem to have something there to build on.
We did. I thought we played really well on the road at Clemson. We made a couple of key mistakes that you can't make against one of the better teams in America. So that did happen. Thanks for pointing that out, Mike. You're right. Okay. I still think that part of our problem when we went on the road at UNC was that there was a lot of talk about some of the really good things we were doing. And I thought sometimes when you haven't had a lot to feel good about in a couple of years, it feels good to have people tell you, boy, you're really playing hard. Boy, you guys really compete. Boy, this is really – and I think you got to fight drinking the Kool-Aid because you didn't win. Yet you did do good things. And it is true, but, you can't let that get in the way of your edge. What I think you saw last week was like, really hungry. And I know you guys understand this, but that's what's great about college football. I mean, it really still is a developmental, emotional game and a motivational game. There's these things really creep in, especially when you don't have a bank on how to, per se, handle all these situations. We're trying to build that bank right now, right? And our hope is that this was another brick in that building. But as I always say in here, because I try to tell you just like how I feel, okay? When you're in this process, sometimes you take a couple forward, one back. It's a process. It's never. You hope it's just really a clean goal like this, but I don't know that it ever is. I think you gain a little, you give a little, you gain a little, you give a little, and at the bar graph at the end, you hope you find the things that you're trying to build and stay climbing for as you move this thing forward, and that's, and as a staff, believe it or not, we're still trying to find exactly the right fits for who we are. And now we're trying to do it with injuries. And there's a lot of work in that right now. because we don't have an overabundance of playmakers. So there's a lot of work in trying to make sure that we're getting everything we can possibly get out. And again, I'm sure everybody has a lot of opinions about that, and that's fine. But, that's what we're doing. Honestly. And we're still in it now. We're up there right now. Just, I'm in that room right now. And we're just like trying to really figure this thing out. Like, what's the best way for us to have success against the team we're playing? And how do we do this? And, and what's Brian Miller's status right now? And is he going to be available, not available? Because he was really starting to factor into what we were doing. And so, like, you just kind of like, wow. It's like, but everybody in the country is doing that. So.
Since you brought it up, can you give us an update on the guys that you had injured in that game?
I think Brian's day-to-day at this point. And,
Right knee for him?
I can't remember which one. And who else?
Jared Rudeau.
Yeah, day to day. Cautiously optimistic. Day to day. Yep.
And C.J. Jones had the knee.
Yeah.
Kind of off and on.
Day to day. I think we got a great shot for all these guys.
Could you expand on that when you talk about the determined seniors that you've seen them really step up?
Mm-hmm.
And is that something that you kind of will make sure you keep them going? And will it trickle down to the underclassmen
Mm-hmm.
as they can actually make it trickle down, not coming
Mm-hmm.
from you guys?
That's the plan. That's what we hope for. Guys like, I'm telling you, Jake Sinkovic played his best game. Mike Naples played his best game. Kasim Edebali may have played his best game. Chase Reddick played a phenomenal game. Probably missing somebody right now that I'm just. KPL played a phenomenal game. I thought he was dynamic on special teams and on defense. There is a couple of shots. There's a shot of KPL, okay, on the punt team. The one where they had they lost 4 yards. Where I'm just telling you, he flat through sheer literal determination, I never see anything like it. Just went down the field at a speed and at a level that I haven't seen. And it was just like, I'm gonna make sure that this guy doesn't get 1 inch on this play. It was really something to watch. He did that on a couple of occasions. And that's a guy starting on defense, playing a lot of snaps. But that's a guy that clearly made his mind up that I'm going to take this into my hands and I'm going to make sure this doesn't happen. I saw that out of several seniors. I saw a determination and chase that was just fantastic. He outran, I forgot who it was, on a quarterback draw. He stiff-armed him and beat him. That's not what Chase, that's not been part of Chase, not been saying, oh, he's going to go stiff-arm. But you know what? That guy right there, he had that look on his eye the whole game. Now, how do you sustain that? We're working really hard at those teaching moments right now, and your hope is that you see that, you see it on film, you feel great about it, it's intoxicating to you, and it becomes a part of your habit, and that's the way you want to play, and that's the goal, right? That's what we're trying to do right now. Is that you can go harder than you think you can, and when you do, how great does that feel? Now let's get that more and more and more and more and more and more. That's usually what happens when a young guy comes into a program, a freshman, and they learn how to become that kind of player. And then your team learns how to become that kind of team. That's when you build, that's what you want. We're trying to get that in fast fashion with guys that are in their 4th and 5th year right now. And to their credit, they really strained. And the prize was worth it. Now, I would say this to you. Urban used to talk about this a lot, and I said this to the team. Just think about how hard it is for people to change. Like people have open heart surgery. They go in, they cut their chest open, right? They rip everything out. They implant new arteries. My dad had that done. The one of the most dramatic surgeries you can have. Literally, right? And most people at some point go back to the old habits that brought them down that path to begin with. Because it's hard. It's hard. Just like I'm going to go back there and eat. It's hard, okay? So my point to you is here you are. You don't just change. You're working every day. And I love these kids because they buy into all that, and they really want that. But you're still changing everything. The work week, the amount of work that goes on beyond the practice field, the intensity of the meeting, the intensity of the practice, the whole thing is like, and here school is very intense as well. So that whole thing is ratcheted up. Now, my hope is that we can learn how to make that part of that's just your habit, like getting up and brushing your teeth in the morning, but that's fatiguing. Last week, I can tell you, I've been in this a long time, and I'm used to that level. I would say to you that was the most fatigued I've been in maybe in my career last week going into that game. On Friday night, I could barely keep my eyes open. I can't imagine what these kids, that's the amount of strain and preparation that went into that. And that was also, of course, the tremendous exhilaration and feeling of the reward from saying, wow, that was really worth that. I mean, that was great, but I want you to understand that's what's going on right now. And sometimes that's hard to sustain as a young player, and we got to learn how to sustain that. So fast forward, that's the challenge this week.
So is there a concern that you could have a lapse?
Yes.
Or a letdown because
Yes.
you're coming off such an emotional,
Yes.
physical strain, you're going cross country, team you haven't faced before, there's a lot of unknown elements.
But the antennas are all up. We've addressed it. I feel great today. I can't wait, man. I can't wait for practice tomorrow. The coaches are going to be going 100 miles an hour, and we're going to make sure our players are going 100 miles an hour. And it's our job to get that done, to rally, to overcome all the bumps and bruises and all the things that are going on right now, and to draw on how great that felt and how we're not going to let that go, and go out there and play at a high level and do something on the road that we haven't done yet. That's the goal. That's what we're all working really hard for. That's what we need to get done.
Steve, KPL said this Saturday, they were playing not to lose, they're playing to win, which all great teams need to do. Can you see that attitude changing in this team where the attitude is basically you're playing to win rather than not to lose? Can you see that changeover?
Yeah, I think what I saw was we got into a situation where this team plays really hard, but that puts you in position to win. It doesn't guarantee you're going to win. And quite truthfully, isn't that what you're supposed to do? Okay. So now I think that Kevin's trying to articulate is, we're going to play really hard and we're going to actually go get it. We got to go get it. We got to take it. And that's what that was definitely felt. Now we got to adopt that as commonplace.
When you were at Florida, isn't that kind of inbred among those guys? And they're so high blue chip athletes. They basically go there thinking that they're not going to lose. I mean, that's their attitude.
Yes, but I still think that winning can really help you foster that, and losing can foster the other. I think it's like young guys, and they're still young, moldable young men, and you can bring, like everything else. We talked about the Red Sox now. I mean, what happened? They're grown men. They're professionals. One year to the next. Don't discount the chemistry piece of that. I just think that you can get things to bring the best out in you, and you can get things to bring the worst out in you, and you're trying to strive to build an environment that brings out the best, where you can get this. We can have this philosophical conversation, which is important. I mean, it's trust. It's caring. Do players feel that you love them and you have their best interest at heart, so that they're willing to take their heart out and give it to you and put it on the table, and you can mold it. It's all of these things. I mean, it's what it is, and when you have a positive thing going, that builds positively. And you talk about places where it's great athletes, and then, wow, that really catches on fire. But in the same breath, when sometimes it gets negative and you're not reaping success, and the fellowship of the miserable can come out, and then it weights it right down. I always believe that it's neither very far sometimes from either end of the thing. And that's another reason why that game was so important. At some point you need validation. We all do, for what you're putting forward. And when you don't get it, it really tests your will and your resolve. In human nature, that's, some people have more will and more resolve than others. And a lot of it has to do with your bank. And so that game helped build that. You can only sometimes handle so many disappointments before you start drawing on that bank, and it's hard. So and we'll have more, things ahead. So that was a great build back into validating their work and their effort. But it's turned like that, just like that. That's the unbelievable thing. That's what you love about, sport, and it's like that. I don't care what sport it is, just wow. Right on a dime, High, 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 low, 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 low. Happens quick, So.
Steve, I'm just curious, you talked about, explosives that your team doesn't seem to possess as much as others, but yet you had explosive plays this
Mhm.
year from
Yes.
Addazio at,
Mhm.
at Clemson. And then, of course, here you had, explosives of, Andre Williams on the 62-yard touchdown run and KPL on his return.
And Manny and Edabali, Kasim on the sacks, and those are all team explosives. What happened in this game was we got some explosives on offense, we got some explosives on defense, so we maximized our ability to do that. And that was huge. We have to do that. We don't have we're not hey, we just don't have. Sometimes Alex gets in all these double coverage games. And then they load the box, and Andre, you should have seen some of the runs now, the way the offensive line blocked. I mean, they blocked everybody, but there's one more. Here he comes, right down here, and he fits it right at the end. And that's why you have to be able to make that play-action game work, because if you can't get that guy off of there, then it's difficult. It's really difficult. But the problem with us is if we do that and we get drops, we get behind the sticks. And when we get behind the sticks, it's hard for us to get the third down. And now you're in third down, and we got a bunch of inexperienced guys out there, and so that has not been our friend right now. That's the last piece, that phase that we're trying to develop, but we're not where we need to be. If we were, our stats would be higher, But in the same breath, I think that the wear and tear that we put on people is also stressful on them, and it's hard to factor that into all those stats.
Ian White kind of addressed that too. He says, you keep pounding the rock,
Yep.
pounding the rock, you're chipping away, and at
Yep.
some point it'll stress them, where a guy doesn't want to get.
Right. But you can't get behind,
Right.
In that style, it's hard to get behind. And the other thing, guys, is this. We really are playing some very good defenses right now. I mean, honestly. That's really relevant. When you play weak defenses, your stats go up in a hurry. We're playing some pretty powerful teams. Even people say well, North Carolina's a pretty talented football team. Now, I go back and make that statement to you again right now. So, but Virginia Tech's defense. Clemson, Florida State, USC's defense. That's what we've been week in and week out now. We had a couple games where we popped those things up against defenses that weren't quite so formidable, right? And so that just affects you now. That affects all the stats and everything. But the only stat that matters is winning. And the one that we're on to right now is getting number 5. And we clearly know what our weaknesses are, and we're working on them, and we're trying to. Some people say, well, you're so stubborn with that run game. Yeah. But what do you want me to do? We hung in there because we felt Andre was going to pop one, and he did. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But, you want to be careful where you go. You panic, or you get a little jittery, and you do something that maybe you're not quite as good at, and the next thing you know, it comes right back at you. That's why sometimes it's hard before the half, and there's situations for us that I'm real careful with. Last thing I want to do is make a tough situation worse. Say, well, that's really conservative. Well, I'm trying to do the best that we can with our team here now today to maximize us. Okay, we're not XYZ team. If I felt like we had pieces everywhere, trust me, I'd be much more aggressive. Sometimes with a minute, whatever and a half, or whatever, even sometimes in the third quarter, if you get down like a couple scores and you're like, well, let's open this thing up. Or is it, let's try to be steady in the boat and see if we can right this thing with what we do best. And then, of course, sometimes that wins and sometimes it doesn't. But you make that decision trying to do what you do best, or what you think you do best,
And if you your team's opportunistic play in terms of capitalizing on the turnovers, scored half your points off turnovers.
We did.
And, I mean, their effectiveness when they got it, especially in that red zone area.
Yeah.
You know, when you're working on a short field.
Right.
It kind of adds a sense of urgency, does it not?
Oh, yeah,
For
I
that,
mean-
for that team to, hey, we have to get this in there.
Yeah. I mean, we knew going in we had to be on the short field against Virginia Tech. I mean, you're playing the number 2 rushing defense in America. I mean, and you run the football. I mean, to think that you're going to be able to drive the field 80 yards against the number 2 defense in America at rushing, you know, it's pretty hard to do. You know what the stats are now, right? They're really low. I mean, you know, the percentages of a team going 90 yards to score are down in the single digits. So, you know, it is a field position game, and we need field position, you know, for us to be successful. And how do you create that? Well, you create that with great defense. You create it with turnovers. You create it with great special team play. That's how you create it, and you create it with explosives. You got to tilt the field. Somehow you got to get the field tilted, and especially in a game like that. In any game, though, it's very hard to just drive the length. It's not easy, and it's certainly not when you're trying to do it at 3 and 4 and 5 yards a whack. It's hard.
I mean, Steve, how important has Steve been to the defense?
You know, he's a real energy guy. So, I mean, he brings a lot of juice to practice, to the field. His quickness on the edge in the pass rush has been really good. He's just got a great attitude. You like being around him. You know, you spend time around him, he's got a great smile on his face. You know, you want to be around that or you want to be around this? You know, I mean, you know, so he's got a really positive effect on our football team. And he's a good player. So it's been very, very important for us.
Having gone up against such tough defenses, how different is the mentality going into this week where it seems like might not have that range of a tough defense, but did it one of those things that you have to balance of being not too having
Yes.
to face those tough defenses already?
That's right. You got to fight human nature. You know, you got to fight the fact that, you know, don't get caught up reading stats and all this other stuff, because you got to get on the road, you got to line up, and you got to go play a football game. And because of the style of team we are, it's just not that easy. I don't care who you, it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, when you're a really explosive, quick strike, you know, like I saw, what's his name? Was it Benjamin from Florida State? Just take that thing right out of the sky against Miami, like, right? And it covered how many yards. And, well, we have to be methodical. And so I'm just trying to say to you is that it's making sure that our guys, you know, understand that, listen, doesn't matter. We have to go the same way every game. Don't get caught up in that, all that. When we do, it seems to really bite us back hard, you know. And it's, you know, but it's human nature, you know. Like, well, this team's ranked this, and it doesn't matter. All that matters is in between the white lines on that day. You need to be better than that team on that day. That's all that matters, and that can work for you or against you. Do you know what I mean? Because all that other stuff is really meaningless. Just go be the best team on that field on that day. That's what it's all about. So that works both ways. So we've got to be on top of our game. That the challenge will be to stay executing at a high level with the same intensity level, and not get caught up in saying, well, we played this defense, it was ranked this, and we were able to run the ball, and you know, we play this defense, it's ranked. It doesn't matter. Guess what's going to happen Saturday? We're going to put a pair of socks on, a pair of pads on. They're going to do the exact same thing, okay? And then they're going to come after us. And I got a lot of respect for that and for them. And I know out there that this is going to be an extremely tough football game. And I'm not trying to manipulate anybody. That's what I know is going to happen. I know it's going to happen. It's going to be tough.
How fine is that line between not getting too high but also building confidence in what you do?
That's a good question, you know. I think you build confidence. The only way you build confidence is by your preparation during the week. And, you know, I honestly, we had such a great week last week. I mean, Thursday was so crisp. The intensity was in the air. You could feel it, like they were bound to determine, make sure that Thursday was executed at a high level. It was awesome. On Thursday before North Carolina, I was crawling up everybody on Thursday in the walkthrough prior to the practice. I didn't know anything about what was going to happen. It just didn't seem to be like like this, you know? And sometimes it's hard to re-rally that. So you want to have a great game, all you can do is have a great practice week. Put yourself in position to have a great game. So I'll judge it by that, you know? And sometimes as a coach, you know, that's really hard because you don't want to be negative. You know, especially by Thursday, you're trying to build positivity, you know? But it's hard to build it on falseness. So I'm just to the point now where for me, I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to call it out for what it is. And you know, I hope we have a great week. That'll give us our best shot, you know?
In the strategic use of Miles Willis, can that save Andre in the fourth quarter?
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard, yeah. Yes. We're really working hard on trying to get Miles as actively involved as we can, you know. It's hard to get Andre out, though. You don't know which one's the one that's going to crack. But we have faith in Miles, you know, and so you saw Miles in there, you know. Then, you know, Miles can help us in the receiving game. But, you know, you only how much you're going to put on a young guy's plate, you know. You're trying to make sure that he can perform at a high level, but there's a lot of things that Miles can do to help us where we have deficiencies. But it's just getting him prepped enough so that he can be at competitive excellence in some of these other things. But, you know, he's a weapon. He's a guy he's very explosive. You know, we tried to do a couple things in the game. Couple worked out, couple didn't. And every week we are trying to put him in position to get another playmaker with Alex. That's what we're doing. So maybe we need to do a better job of that, you know, and that's me, you know. But we're working at it really hard. I just, you know, I worry with a freshman how much he can handle, because all of a sudden, one snap away, Andre gets hurt or something. He's really got to be that tailback. So if you don't train him to be that tailback and that happens, and you're training him to be this other guy, then he's not really ready to be that tailback. And that's just like that. That can happen like that. So, you know, we're working at that. But that's, you know, I think that's right. You know, always trying to get your most explosive guys on the field any way you can. So.
What about guys like Kimball and Rouse? I mean, are they trying to get them some reps?
Well, Taj is still trying to come back from that injury. I mean, he's still struggling with that, and I really think that Rouse is coming on, as I said a couple weeks ago, strong. But you know, we're not going to right now. We're not really getting 3 running backs in the game, but he's taken a lot of practice snaps, and certainly could see him in the game. But again, when you have freshmen, you're trying to get them ready for their real day job. And it's hard to, you know, now all of a sudden Rouse is fielding punts because he's becoming the backup punt returner, and Miles is the starting kickoff returner, and Rouse is the backup kicker. So you got those other things on their plate. You know, I get nervous about how much you can scatter those guys. They're freshmen, you know, so it's the problem. You know, if they were a little older, maybe you could do a little bit more, you know, but they've come a long way just trying to develop them in the one position that they have. That's it. Appreciate it, guys.